Welcome to Back to the Futures, the official podcast of the Futures League, presented by 78 Sports. I'm Owen Shadrick. Thank you for joining us for episode 2 of season 6 of this podcast. We had a great episode last week to open up our season with a couple of guys who were playing Division I baseball last week. It's great to see Division I baseball back. Some notable performances. We had another home run from Rake Geloff, a.k.a. Jake Geloff, for Virginia. Congratulations to him for continuing to rake on the field. We had a former Vermont Lake Monster, MJ Metz, hit his first dinger for Duke baseball. Congratulations to MJ. Speaking of the Vermont Lake Monsters, we still have Pete Wilk in our thoughts and prayers as he is going through chemotherapy for brain cancer. Pete, we love you. The GoFundMe link will continue to be in our caption on the podcast, so be sure to look out for that. For this episode, we had Tim Cianciolo, former Pittsfield Sun, 2021 and 2022. He talked about the 2021 championship run and his all-star appearances the last 2 years. He was also 2022 All-Futures League second team. We discuss UMass Boston. We discuss his time at New Milford High School and the academic weapon that he is. Tim, very smart kid, and you guys are going to love this episode, so we're going to give it to you. Here is Tim Cianciolo. We welcome on our next guest here on Back to the Futures. He was a member of the Pittsfield Suns in 2021 and 2022 and is currently ramping up for his season with the UMass Boston Beacons. It's Tim Cianciolo. Tim, how you doing today?
Good. How are you, Owen? Doing well.
Doing well as well. And first question here right off the bat. Obviously, you guys open up Tuesday. How are you feeling heading into opening day, and how has the offseason been treating you?
Obviously, everyone wants to get going. A little jitters, we're just on our Beacon's Instagram page. We just posted like we're 6 days out. So we're all, you could tell we're all getting there. We want to just play, inter squatting each other, and it's getting kind of boring. We just had a scrimmage in Curry, but everyone's ready. Hopefully, I would love to get the ball game won. I don't know if it's gonna line up like that. But yeah, we're all just super excited. I know New England College is a pretty good team. I know probably one of the pitchers we're going to be facing played on Westfield. He was a preseason All-American. So I feel like it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, it'll certainly be fun to see all the D3 Futures Leaguers opening up this season. And you will be a senior with COVID eligibility kind of mixed in there. We'll get to that a little bit later. Yeah. But what are your expectations for your team in your senior season, if you will?
They're pretty high. Coming off of, the guys we got back, I feel like we didn't lose too much. We lost some really good players. We lost starting center fielder, our starting catcher, left fielder, was on and off. And, the guys we got brought back are guys who are guys who just kind of manage with adversity and kind of go. I played with, Ross Dexter and Drew Metzdorf, last year, and then they were with me with Pittsfield, and now we're back again. That extra year of just understanding the chemistry between the three of us, and then with the rest of our teammates, it just creates the bond that's a little stronger. So I feel this team's a lot closer than we were last year, both on and off the field. We just love to be around each other, and I think those off-field bonding moments have really impacted on-field, whether it's in the classroom, the weight room, have really impacted on-field chemistry and allowed us to solidify and, put in that extra work for the other guy.
And that's super important, having team chemistry in whatever you do, but especially in a team sport like baseball where you guys are together every day and you're grinding every day. So that's great to hear that everybody's starting to come together in that locker room.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. I mean, even a few extra guys, like our starting shortstop, John Zarrilli, played at Norwich like a year ago, I think. Just playing against him is just something different than playing with him. So obviously knowing how he plays, pitching against him is different, but now having him back with us is just even better.
Yeah, we will certainly get into that Futures League talk a little later. But for right now, you set expectations about your team. How about for yourself? What do you hope to accomplish this year at UMass Boston?
Expectations pretty high. I'm not gonna lie. Coming off of, I'm not gonna lie, like last year, my first year in Pittsfield, I did well. I was an all-star. Tore my labrum against Vermont. sidelined for fall ball for 6 months of PT, didn't really feel it last year in the spring. I felt like I babied the ball. And then coming in the summer was really where I figured myself out with this past year in Pittsfield. And I had a really good summer. I was an all-star again. I think I got like second team all FCBL. Um, put up really good numbers, and that's numbers that I expect for myself. So I'm just trying to carry that over. Obviously that's a pretty high expectation. Going for a sub 3 ERA, low batting average against, and any way I can help my team win, that's a win for me. Um, so that's my expectation. Like I want the ball as much as I can, whether I throw, conference games on Saturdays or midweek games against, the, prime New England competition like Endicott, Roger Williams, Salve, whoever it may be. I want the ball as much as I can to try to help my guys win.
And talk about that real quick, going back in the past a little bit. You said you had a torn labrum. That's no joke. That's a lot of recovery time. How do you kind of manage that, especially coming off, as you said, a summer where you had a great summer in Pittsfield in 2021 and have to come back to school with an injury lingering?
Yeah, that injury in 2021, that was probably the most serious injury I've had. It was tough, I'm not gonna lie. Like just, dressing in baseball pants and being part of practice and realizing that I can't throw a ball. Um, it was tough. It was a hard concept to wrap my head around. And, the moment I got back, it was like, okay, 6 months of PT, continuing PT to this day, whether it's like dumbbell exercises, just simple mobility stuff. And it's weird. Like if I feel like I don't get a certain amount of like PT work in, I don't feel good for like that entire week. Like it's just a weird thing in my head. But I try to stick to a strict schedule. But like I said, I felt like last year I babied it, and it wasn't until the summer where I really just kind of let my arm loosen up again, like where I was earlier before I got injured, to let everything start going. So hopefully, I think I got over that moment. Obviously, like a big injury like that's like different. Like obviously, like I didn't, get Tommy John, but guys who had get TJ, they feel like a sense of, oh my god, every time I throw a ball, is it gonna go again? Something like that. I got that sense, but I feel like it's a lot better now. I don't really think about that anymore, which is good.
Yeah, and it's the toughest thing. Like obviously it's a physical injury, but the mental part of it is it's a whole nother game trying to, as you said, get out of your own head and make sure that you can get over that hump and throw a ball. And that's good that Pittsfield kind of helped you write that a little bit, hopefully heading into the season.
Yeah, yeah, it was nice. I mean, a huge shout out to the team Pittsfield trainer, Christina Mucci. She really helped me. She helped all the Suns players. We got treatment. I think we could go in for like 3 times a week. Um, it was amazing what she did with all the different treatment aspects. So a huge shout out to her for kind of helping me break that, and also just continuing treatment of my shoulder.
Yeah, big shout out to her and all the trainers around the Futures League who have helped numerous players do that all
Yeah.
summer long, really.
Yeah.
And let's finally get into the futures. You've been in the Futures League for the past 2 seasons. What has been your favorite part about your experiences in Pittsfield?
I mean, playing at Wacona Park is pretty cool. Like, um, obviously this year, like, the grandstands weren't like accessible, but it's still pretty cool to play, at the oldest park in the country. A field that I think they told us like Jackie Robinson, Babe Ruth played on. The first collegiate baseball game ever played was played on that park, so it was a huge honor. I like the historical feeling of they still have the strikeout tobacco sign from like the 1950s or 60s. I think that's cool. And I know they're starting to like revamp some of it now. But I think playing at Wacona was amazing. The mound was really nice. It was not a hitter's ballpark too, so as a pitcher, you love that. And another moment is just the bus rides with the guys. I luckily I had like two really good coaches. Matt Gedman, who's now the head coach of the Bees, and then Kevin Donati. As a starter, they were like, "Oh, okay, you don't have to travel on away games if you don't pitch." Sometimes I would just travel to help the guy. Just to be there. I didn't travel all the time, but like it was just the bus rides I did travel was like that's where you build your chemistry with so many guys. That's where you learn, hey, they help you with pitch grips. Is where you play games like Mafia on the bus ride back, or The one time we stopped at a shop right because we needed dinner on the bus, and the bus were just like, and we just ended up eating like kings on the bus ride back. It's just simple stuff like that, and that's the stuff that sticks with you for a long time. And that's like really you create the memories and the friendship and the connections with guys all around the country that come up here to play.
Yeah, that's what we like to hear. The bus rides have been a very common, not a common answer, but group events with the guys where you're not on the field, but you're doing stuff off the field together. That seems like that's been the most common answer when I ask that question. So that's great to hear that.
Yeah.
You know,
Also,
so
like I just thought of another. It was like,
no, shoot, man.
we're called the Pittsfield Suns. It's always sunny. That's why we have the sun delay. It's just, one thing we did the last 2 years is we did shirtless BP. Just for the fun of it. It's just like, to get back. We play X amount of games for college. 40 plus, 50 plus games for college, and like, yeah, we're all here to win and compete in the summer league, but like at the same time, it's like this is why we fell in love with the game. It's just the aspect where we can have fun and just be ourselves. So like shirtless BP was so much fun.
Yeah, that's there's
Like,
nothing like, and then you're in the sun too. It's
yeah,
great.
it's nice. Yeah.
So speaking of the sun, I pretty much asked every Pittsfield Sun that's come on here. Got to talk about the sun delays, especially from a pitcher's perspective and a starting pitcher's perspective, no less. What are your thoughts whenever you see the sun creeping over and it looks like there may be a delay coming?
Oh, that's a great. So luckily, in my 2 years that I pitched there, I never experienced it.
Wow.
When I was pitching, I got super lucky, and I threw a decent amount of home games. I think this past year, I had like I think 10 or 11 starts. 6 of them were home. Didn't experience one. The year before, roughly the same thing. Didn't experience one. The only one that actually happened was my first year was in 2021. Um, Gedman actually had me come out of the bullpen. He had an opener go for 2 innings, so the sun delay would hit, and then I could just ride. I ended up throwing innings like 3 to 8. It was just, but it's seeing, talking to other pitchers who experience it. They said it's like the worst thing in the world because it just kills like your flow. It kills the adrenaline, like because it's like a 15-minute like wait period. Um, and there's always the running joke of like, oh, who's gonna be the one to call it? You know, what hitter is gonna be the one to call it? Um, and it's funny, like, who's gonna sacrifice the AB because they can't see you, so they tuck the brim of their helmet down. But from a pitching point as an advantage, it's amazing because you throw a curveball a little up, the ball just disappears and it's right down the middle, and the hitter like freezes. But it's definitely can be very annoying at times.
Yeah, we talked to Mike Gervasi a couple of years ago on this podcast, and he was obviously he's catching, so he's seeing the sun delay kind of happen live, and it's scary for him because he's got to catch pitches
Yeah.
from you guys. So it's like for the hitter, yeah, that's a whole different thing because you could get hit but for the catcher, it's like you're blind, you cannot see anything coming your way.
Yeah, and it's like I remember throwing to Mike and him just talking about it. It's just like he's like, dude, he's like, I need to wear like 3 pairs of sunglasses in order for me to barely be able to see. And I remember one time when Isaiah Mestre was throwing to him, he straight up just missed the fastball and hit the ump square in the chest, and that's when they called it. He was just like, yeah, I didn't see it. It's tough, and you don't want to be like that guy to call it. Um, but I think it's a unique feature of the field because back then they didn't have lights when they built the field in 1892, so they just played every day game. So I think it's a pretty cool feature.
Yeah, it is a unique part of the Futures League, and I always love talking about it. So that was a great conversation about the age old sun delay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it before. You've had 2 managers in your 2 years in the Futures League. I want to ask about both. We'll start with Matt Gedman. What has he taught you most about the game, as especially for a guy who's been in the Futures League for such a long time?
I mean, Getty's the man. I love him. I almost followed him to New Britain. Um, Me and Caleb Spur actually, because Caleb and I both played on Pittsfield both years. Um, we both almost followed him there because we loved him. We loved his attitude, what he brought to the field. It was, I think he played like high A. Obviously knowledge of the game, but it's just the way he talks about simple things, like I know from a hitter's perspective, I would actually talk to him about what hitters see in certain counts because then I know to do the opposite of that as a pitcher. So it helped my game that way. But it's funny, like some of the conversations are like, maybe you walk two guys in a row and he comes out to talk to you. It's just he wouldn't talk to you about baseball. He would just talk to you about random stuff to calm you down. Um, and that's a huge mechanism in how I pitch now. It's like, let's take that cleansing breath, let's take that deep breath, but it's just like, hey, what I'm gonna make for dinner later tonight. It just takes your mind off a moment and then you can refocus and go. And I think that that's a big thing, but just being able to relax and play the game, I think that's one of the biggest things he's taught me. And besides looking at for what hitters look at when in certain counts.
Yeah, Getty's certainly a wise man of the game, and that's great that he's taught you that stuff. Especially, you said he's more of like a hitter's guy, but he can teach you that even from a pitcher's perspective, just trying to learn that way.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side of that, last year you had Kevin Donati as your manager, obviously a younger guy than Getty, not by much, Getty. Don't worry about that. But what was it like having a younger guy at the helm coaching you guys last year?
It was nice. I mean, Kev was, I think, 25, and I was, a few months away from being 22. Um, and we were there every day. Like obviously he owned Rip City, which was like the indoor facility. So like I would see him every day, whether I was going in the lift there, throwing the cage or, obviously being at the field. But, having a younger coach, it makes it more relatable from when like he played to I played because it's, obviously as we know, like baseball, the game changes, the biggest thing is now is like huge pitch clock violations and all that stupid stuff. But just like, it went from small ball now, it's big fly homer, strikeout numbers are up and just talking to him about how he played and how I play, it's very similar. And he's more of, let's get psyched, let's get jacked up to go compete, which is awesome because that's totally me, I mean, and I just remember the day I set the strikeout record against Worcester at Wacona. He called, like, I think I gave up like a double. And then I walked a guy and he walked out. He's like, hey, do you really want someone else to give up your runs right now and blow your ERA? And it just got me like psyched up. I'm like, no, this is my game. Like I want this. And it's just like he plays the mind game like Getty did, but in a slightly different way to psych you up because you realize like, hey, like you're a kid. I'm a little older than you, but I can still relate to you, which was amazing.
Yeah, and it's you just said it. It's like as I said with Getty, that it's that perspective, like having guys with different angles coaching you. Because obviously, you go to UMB, you have the same coach every year, but going to Pittsfield and having two different guys to teach you kind of the two different ways that they operate, that's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. I mean, even, my first year I had Brandon Sheikalelis. I probably butchered him. We call him Coach Sheik. He pitches he's the pitching coach at UMass Amherst, completely different who I had the following year, which is Alex Carasuto, who was a former Beacon, who was the pitching coach. Two different philosophies, both, helped kind of mold me into what I am right now, which is another good thing.
Yeah, it's a fantastic thing to have. And you mentioned it a couple seconds ago, but Kevin did own Rip City Academy, and he talked about on when he came on the show how important that was to have you guys in there and training in there. So how much did that help you?
Oh, it was tenfold. I wish I wish I had the first year. Um, yeah, it's amazing. Their facility is gorgeous. Anyone in that area should go try to train there. Because they have, I think, like 6 squat racks. They have, a head strength coach there who, if you wanted to, you could write a program, but most guys come in with a program. But, we could lift in there 7 days a week. We could go hit in there off, have the hit tracks going with them, guys feeding the machine. There's like 8 to 10 tunnels. There's bullpens. There's dummies. Like guys were constantly in there. And it got to the point where Kevin was just like, hey, like this is where the spare key is hidden and like just let us go. And it was awesome. And, in a college baseball environment, like guys don't get to work outside of college baseball. During the summer, like it's even harder too. Like it's a little lighter. But he was even helping some of us out with like, hey, like do you mind, like, you want to give lessons if you like, if guys ask, like, for work, to give lessons. So we were there, spending an extra little more time. Um, but it was a beautiful facility. It helped, I think, everybody because maintaining strength and mobility and flexibility is key in season, and I think that's prevented a lot of injuries.
Yeah, that certainly helps. And those training facilities, we talk about it all the time on this podcast, how outside work and work in those type of environments can definitely help guys improve their game in so many ways. So that's
Yeah,
awesome that you were able to get that on a daily basis with Pittsfield.
yeah.
Hold on, we'll get right back to the futures, but first, we want to share a message from our friends at 78 Sports. Do you have kids playing baseball or softball? We all know practice time is limited, especially here in New England, not to mention the cost of lessons and cage time can add up very quickly. Save yourself time and money by giving your kids what they need to work on their game at home. Our friends at 78 Sports can help you put together the perfect at-home training setup. Whether you want to start small with just a tee and a net, or looking to set up a full cage with turf and a pitching machine, they have you covered. And I've used their stuff before. I've seen their facilities. They definitely cover everything. The team at 78 Sports design and install hundreds of at-home and commercial sports training facilities. So let them help you find the perfect setup for your space. Visit the 78 Sports website at 78sports.com. That's SEVENTY, the number 8, sports.com. For a limited time only, by just mentioning Back to the Futures, you'll receive a 10% discount off your order. That's SEVENTY, number 8, sports.com. Now, back to your regularly scheduled programming.
And you guys have had a number of great arms come through the organization, whether it's yourself, Isaiah Mestre, who we've talked about, Ryan Langford, Ian Donahue, among others. What's it been like to be part of that staff with such good arms coming through Pittsfield?
Yeah, it was awesome. Knowing, because those guys you just named, excluding myself, it was Zeke, Langford, Ian Donahue. Those guys, I mean, all different ways of pitching. For example, Zeke has a 4-pitch mix and he's high to mid eights, paints corners, and makes you look like a fool compared to, Ryan Langford, who was touching 97 in the championship game, just blowing fastballs and ripping bangers of sliders off guys' front hip. It was awesome. But knowing like that was the year I came in was amazing because I think I learned more. I like this. I gotta say, like, I learned a ton from my pitching coaches. I'm not gonna take anything away from my pitching coaches here at UMass Boston, but hearing how other guys have cues for mechanical or how they throw a X pitch or what they're thinking mentally on the mound is a lot different because again, it's the age related thing. Like, someone who has high success at your same age, you want to try to compare yourself to them to help you get better. And I think that's what we did. This past year they kept referring to me and Isaiah as like co-aces, and it was just like, hey, in the beginning of the year we both told to ourselves like, hey, let's compete with each other as we compete with the other guys. And it was just like the running joke of us going back like, oh Tim, I went 6 innings, 2 runs, 9 Ks, and like me, coming back was like, oh Zeke, this is my stat line. It was a constant competition between ourselves as we played guys, and that's what you want. You want guys who love baseball, are there to compete and help your teammates in any way you can.
Yeah, that's a new one, kind of competing against yourselves. I like that because especially for, as you said, Zeke is a different pitcher than you, a different pitcher than Ryan Langford. It's great that you guys are kind of in with each other, but it's also like, all right, let's try and show each other up, but also
Yeah.
we're trying to win at the same time.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it earlier. You've been an all-star your last 2 seasons here with the Futures League, both seasons you've played. What did it mean to be chosen for both all-star games and be recognized among the great group of guys that get honored every year?
Oh, it felt amazing. I know my first year, I really wanted it. Like I really, really wanted it. I had like really good numbers. Um, and I know the second year, like that was my expectation. I'm like, hey, I gotta hit the All-Star game. Um, but it feels, I mean, I mean, like, let's say there's 40 guys to a team, like roughly 8 teams. So that's roughly 320 guys. And, I got chosen to be, one of 20 pitchers for one team or 10 pitchers for one team, 20 pitchers total. Like that means a lot. Anyone who doesn't say otherwise is just, they're lying. Like it's an amazing honor. And being around those group of guys, I mean, I understand like the division, it's Division 1, 2, 3, NAIA, like, being at the All-Star game, I felt like I could compete with some of those, Division 1 guys. Like, and I felt like I did, at times. At times they beat me, that's part of baseball. I beat them. But at the same time, like I felt like in the mindset, it's just like, I'm here for a reason. My numbers speak for themselves. My work ethic speaks for itself. I'm here to compete and just have fun. But yeah, back-to-back years as an all-star, that was awesome. And I honestly wouldn't have it any other way. Like the path that I went from, torn labrum to PT to working my butt off and the all-star, like it meant a lot to me the second year, knowing I got hurt that first year.
Yeah, especially after you get hurt, it's great to come back and solidify yourself as an all-star once again. And you mentioned it, you're in D3 at UMass Boston, but one experience that you get with the Futures League is being able to throw and show off your skills in front of professional scouts during our all-star festivities. What does that mean to you to get out in front of those guys who are potentially looking at you for a future in baseball?
Oh, it's awesome. It's scary at the same time, but it's awesome. I don't know. I'm guessing other people feel that way. Some guys just like they say they're used to it. Like I don't think I'd ever get used to it. Um, it's cool. Knowing, like I said, knowing I'm there because of my numbers, because of the capability, because of my hard work. Um, it's just another way to prove myself to someone else. My thought process is, when I get on the mound, I do like, I put the FU in fun. Like I try to have fun, but I got to have like that edge. Um, but, seeing, knowing that I'm in with a group of guys and there's potential to play baseball at the next level, that's what I want to do. I want to play for as long as I can. And the moment I can stop playing or like I'm told I'm stop playing, I'll pick up a fungo and start coaching. But I would love to play for as long as I can, and knowing that the Futures League can attract scouts um, to guys for guys to get advantage for the future years to play baseball at the next level is an amazing quality. Not a quality that I've really experienced. Um, but yeah, it's a cool feeling to know that when you step on the mound, there's could be a few guys in the stands with some clipboards with your name, and they're taking notes on you for the future potentially.
Yeah, it's really cool to see, especially for, as I said, like guys in D3 schools who might not get as much attention as the D1 guys, but they're all out there competing on the same field. And that's what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And one quick question about the All-Star game. Last year, we did change up the format a little bit, having two captains, including your former teammate, Joel Lara, who did choose you for the All-Star game. What were your thoughts on that?
Oh, I loved it. I remember Joel texted me the day you guys were doing the draft, and he was like, "Hey, here's my plan, and this is when I plan on picking you." Like it was funny, um, and I was just like, okay, like, and I was friends with oh my god, I was friends with Goldstein, and like I knew it. Like I was like, okay, I could end up on either team. Like I'm just hoping I'm with like my teammates and some of my friends. Um, and when the All Star list came out, it was just like I got picked up by Joel, and like I did like a mini like fist pump. I was like, yeah, here we go. Like it was nice knowing that. Yeah, because I mean, you teammates stick together. Like I said, like building that relationship with people, whether on off the field, on the field, it sticks for a long time. I still, I'll slide up on Joel's Instagram stories and just see how he's doing and vice versa. So it was a nice experience to have to play with him again.
Yeah, and you guys, besides that, you took the field together in 2021 on the Pittsfield Suns, and you guys made an incredible run that year, getting all the way to the championship series. Obviously, it unfortunately didn't work out that way for you guys, but it was just so cool to see you guys and know that you were a part of that. So, what was it like being part of that team, chasing the championship in 2021 with Chief Wacona by your side and almost getting there at the end?
That that year was like I said, like it felt like a fever dream that pushed towards the end. Because I remember, I got hurt, but I stayed in Pittsfield because I wanted to be part of that, just like the environment, the culture. And I wish I could have played. I don't know if I could have made a difference, but you never know. But two, it was just like that that team was pretty close to be a summer team. It's not like college when you're with each other 24/7 for 7-8 months. Like that team got really close really fast, and I think that's why we had success. Um, and it was just like that game was heartbreaking, that 3-2 loss, because we worked, we battled back against Brockton in round one, and then coming back to, we beat Vermont up at their place. I think we smashed them. We beat them like 14-3 or something. And then almost pulling it off on our home field. Like that was like, okay, we got one more shot. And then, that year was our ace versus their ace. It was Zeke versus Harrington. And, I remember, I think it was Joel or Jack Cooney. They got it started in the ninth to put up the 2 spot. And it was just like Gervasi's line drive off of a kid throwing 97, just right at the right field. All of us thought that was down for us to go ahead in the ninth. It was tough, but that run was amazing. And even though we lost, like I can still remember almost every detail.
Yeah, again, as I said, it was an incredible team to watch. Both you guys in Vermont. It seemed like as you kept winning in the playoffs, the stars were aligning for you guys to have an epic championship series, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And so after that year, you come back for 2022. You're a veteran leader in the locker room. You end up with all FCBL honors, which congratulations for that. Obviously, very well deserved. But in 2022, you're a veteran now of the Futures League. You're a second-year guy. What advice were you dishing out most in the locker room, and what's the best advice you were given in your first year that may have translated to your second year?
I think the biggest thing was just, like I said, like put the FU in fun, like just relax. That's something Getty told me. Um, and it's just, that's the best thing I gave guys. That team, that Pittsfield Suns team I was just on this past year, like we were super young. A lot of young guys were on it. Like, whether they were incoming freshmen, like they weren't, older. So it was just like, when they got in that rut, whether it was a hitter who went on a slump, a pitcher who just couldn't find it, just remember like, hey, like it's baseball. Like it's one of the hardest sports. You know how hard it is to hit a baseball, stuff like that. And it was just, my coach here at school always says embrace the 9 versus 1 mentality when you're on defense. Like there's 9 of us versus 1 guy. Like we got it. Like they may beat us here and there, but like we're still gonna do it. And I think that's what really helped progress to a good season for myself. And a lot of guys, I mean, we didn't make the playoffs. We didn't do too hot, but I think there was a lot of individual performances that guys understood, and they really took that philosophy and really, did well throughout that season. Like, for example, Bo Branham, he broke the Pittsfield Suns batting average in a season. I think he hit like 347 or something like that, 348, maybe 350. But like, it's just, this is a kid who came in, who struck out his first 7 at bats, and it was just like, dude, baseball sucks. And it was just like, hey, like, just keep working, work while you wait, just keep working, and it's gonna find a way. And there he was, set the new batting average in the season. So who actually was set by our head coach Kevin Donati. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was fun. And again, you said it though. It was a good locker room there in Pittsfield. And speaking of records, you did break one yourself. You are now the record holder for strikeouts in a game for Pittsfield Suns pitchers. What does it mean to you to be edged forever in Pittsfield Suns in the record books?
Oh, it's awesome. I'm blessed. It's really cool. I didn't know I did it at the time though. I didn't know. Like I got my last strikeout, and I was just remembering like, ooh, that swing looked pretty bad by that kid on a changeup, and I just walked off the field. Everyone said good game, and it was at the end of the game where they announced where I did it, and I was like, oh my god, and people were like congratulating me. But it's awesome knowing like I said, the history of Wacona. The first college baseball game was ever played there. Like knowing that, I'm in that record book is pretty cool. And I know I mean, I think Billy Madwell actually told me said it a few times, like we tied it a few times. Like Zeke had like 11 strikeouts like twice that year. And, just that one game I got the 12th, it could have been him any other moment, which is pretty cool knowing that both of us were just right there. But yeah, it's a huge honor. Hopefully it stands for a little bit, I think Billy told me it stood for like, 5, 6 years before I broke it. Hopefully the same, but if someone breaks it, I'll tip my hat to them and say congratulations.
Yeah, we'll have that record stand for a little bit. Gotta keep it there.
Yeah.
Before we return to Back to the Futures, we want to share a message from our friends at Zorian Bat Company. Rob Zorian started the company Zorian Bat Company in 2003, literally out of the trunk of his car in Davie, Florida. Within 2 years, he was selling his wood bat line to Major League Baseball and continues to manufacture the highest grade wood bats for Little League all the way up to the majors. Rob Zorian, founder and president of Zorian, says, I started the company in 2003 to service all baseball players in the United States and beyond. And after 19 years, our mission has not changed. We are very excited to have the opportunity to work with the Futures League and wish all of our players and coaches a healthy and successful season ahead. For more information about Zorian, visit their website, zorianbats.com. Zorian, America's baseball brand. Now, back to the Futures. So transitioning from the Futures League to your time at UMass Boston, you were part of the 2019 high school class, which means COVID hit you harder than most graduating classes.
Yeah.
How have you used what happened in 2020 to your advantage, especially now that you mentioned it before we even started that you have an extra year of eligibility that you're going to use?
Yeah, COVID was huge for me. I was one of the lucky ones, to be honest. I see COVID as, a curse and a good thing. Yeah, it sucked that I lost a year of eligibility and be able to play for those guys. But it honestly helped me. I graduated high school at 149 pounds. I was a twig. And the 6 months, 6, 7 months in college, I think I got up to like 156, only gaining like 7 pounds. And when COVID hit, obviously everything shut down. A buddy of mine who lives like half a mile away, they started building like a home gym. Like they had a squat rack, they had everything, trap bar, deadlift, like dumbbells, they had everything. And I would go, like my day was so structured. It was like I would go to class, I would, go to the local high school. I would do sprint work in the morning, go to class, go throw, go long toss, whatever I have to do that day, and then go lift every day at like 2 o'clock. We were lifting. So I was basically running a 2 a day for like 6 months. And it honestly helped me because I went from, the 155-ish pounds to I got up to like 185. And, that 30 pounds of, I'll say muscle, but I know it's not all muscle, but let's say, that gain of 30 pounds, let's say, 15 to 18 or 18 to 20 of it was muscle. And that really elevated my game. I went from a guy who was, I could spin to win, it was curveball, changeup, sneak a fastball in at like 82, 83, to a guy who was then sitting, that COVID year, we had like an abbreviated season for college. I earned myself a starting role in the rotation. I went from a guy who was going to be, a midweek Mikey, as my coach likes to say, and like a reliever to, a guy in our starting rotation who threw, the Saturday doubleheader. And I remember I popped my first like 89. And I was like, oh my God, this is cool. I was sitting, 85 to 88 most days. And, at the Division III level, that's pretty good, and I remember, popping my first 90 in the summer. That was amazing. It felt like all that hard work really paid off. I did, like I said, like almost 2 a days for 6, 7 months. And in the beginning of the season, like the radar gun wasn't showing it. And I got really flustered and it really in my head, like, oh my God, is this even worth it? I put in all this work. But, COVID actually helped me. Yeah, I have years. It's crazy. I'm a senior academically, but a sophomore on the field this coming year. So I still have this year plus 2 more. I don't know if I'll use all of them, to be honest, but COVID helped. like I said, I'm one of the few lucky ones that actually helped.
Yeah, you said it. It's a blessing and a curse, really, and it definitely helped certain people, but also it was tough for some people. But that's good that you took the positives out of it and made of it what you could. So going back to the Futures League real quick, well, obviously at UMass Boston, plenty of guys have played in the league, whether it's been on your team or not. What has it been like to play with some of those guys at college and then facing them in the Futures League, whether it was Dylan Ryan, Alex Amalfi, or you mentioned Drew Mesdorf you played with earlier?
Yeah, I mean, facing those guys, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I remember, obviously my first year, Dylan Ryan, Alex Amalfi on, they were on Brockton. One was on Worcester. We took all three of us were all stars. We took a picture. That was a really great moment. This past summer, I played with Ross Dexter and Drew Metzdorf. Again, me and Metzi were both all stars. We were there at the game together on the same team. My first year, Giannis is really our shortstop. He played on Norwich for a few games, for I think it's like the back half of the season. I never faced him, which I really wanted to, because he was my roommate too. Um, Even then this past year, Craig Corliss, who's our starting catcher, um, we still talk about it to this day. When we faced him, and I remember I struck him out twice. I think it was two separate games, but I got him twice. I know that, and I hold that over his head all the time. One of them being like the Taco Bell strikeout player of the game. You strike him out, the fans get tacos or like a free taco. Um, but I always say that. But he also, he laced a double off the wall against me, so he says that back to me. So like, it's awesome. It's nice knowing I go to a program that breeds hardworking, good athletes. I mean, Futures League is a pretty credible league up here in New England. Like a lot of people, get picked up to go up to the Cape. Myself, I got midway through the season, just before the All-Star game, I got a call from my coach saying, "Hey, like in the NECBL, one team wants to go play, and now I'm playing in the NECBL this upcoming summer." It's a pretty credible league. There's a lot of talent in there from Division One to Division Three. That everyone can play. But facing my teammates is it's something different because I know I'm going to see him and we're going to say something to each other. But it's a lot of fun. I'm from Craig. I give the double to Craig. I said something and the umpire was like, "What did you say?" And I was like, "No, he's my teammate back at school." And we both just laughed about it. And we still talk about it to this day too, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And you mentioned it before, you play with a lot of hardworking guys, and that's what Division Three is known for. So I want to ask you, like I ask everybody on this podcast who's in Division Three, how much pride do you take in playing for a Division Three school?
I love it. I love it, man. It's awesome. um, you know, um, the Beacons, we're pretty good up here in the LEC. In the New England, before I got here, they, been to 3 World Series. They won, the conference 4 years in a row, 3 years in a row, whatever it was. It's awesome. I take pride in being a D3 athlete. Like, does it ever like hit my mind of, oh, should I enter the portal and like, try to go D1? Like, but then I always realize like this is the coach, this is the team, this is the program that gave me a shot to play at the next level. And, they're the one that developed me into who I am today. So, it's awesome knowing that, this team just kind of took a shot on you. Division 3 athletes aren't it's not like they're the first ones to go off in front of college scouts because, college scouts take the Division 1 guys, D2, but knowing that, being a D3 athlete, knowing how hard I work, both on and off the field, it's pretty satisfying to know that I can still play against Division 1 guys in the summer and still have success. I think the one of the hardest workers I think I've met is a shout out to Caleb Spur at Endicott. Um, this is a kid my first year at Pittsfield. Like you can even talk to him if you have him on this podcast. Bring it up, feel free. He even he's like, dude, like I sucked my first year. He straight up said that to me. I was like, yeah, you kind of did. Not gonna lie. And here he is, preseason's I think second team All American. He's an All American last year. In college, he's going to UConn. for his grad year. Like, I think that just speaks volume of what a D3 player is, because I get another guy, Billy Olin, played for Vermont the first year, now D3 won a national championship at Eastern Connecticut State. Now he's pitching for Southern Miss at the Division I level. Like, it's just that hard work. I think, a lot, as my coach says, some D1 schools, like, they coddle you, they give you all the cool, fancy stuff. And, we're just here just nitty and gritty trying to find a way. And I like that. It helps me outside of athletics too, like whether it's finding a job, writing a resume. Like, I just feel it's a little bit more of an edge.
Yeah, you definitely see that with guys who are in D3. It always seems like they have more of an edge, and I wouldn't say more of a determination, but like there's a certain chip on their shoulder that they put onto the baseball field. And I always love talking to all Division III guys about that, because it's an awesome trait to have.
Yeah, it's different, and I like it. Knowing, I remember when I faced Worcester, I remember, in the beginning of the game, they announced, like, Tim Cianciolo from UMass Boston, like, and I remember I heard like Penn State or something like that. Like, I heard like a Power 5 conference, and I'm just like, oh, like in my head, I'm like, when you step in the box, the first thing I'm doing is throwing a fastball up and in to get you off my plate to set the tone, because that's what I want to do. Like, I don't care if you're a big Power 5 school, you still have to go and compete, and you still got to beat me. So like, it's just like, it's just that thing. Like, I know a lot of D3 guys have it. Like, I know Spur has it. Like, when a Division I pitcher's up on the mound, he's like, I really want to beat this kid just to show he's not better than me.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's going to continue throughout the years of the Futures League, and I'm definitely excited to see that going forward from these D3 guys. And coming out of high school, you had, I'm sure, a number of choices for schools, but UMass Boston was the one you went with. What was your recruitment process like to college?
My recruitment process was pretty easy. I applied to one school.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like you said, like, I had a toss up. I think I had like 3 or 4 schools. Um, I think the highest division I had was like Stonehill College, who's now Division I when they were D2. Western New England was up there. Worcester State, I toured it, but like, I didn't really get the vibe. But it was when I came to UMass Boston, it was, I did the tour of the school before I had my meeting with Coach Igbroat. So I saw everything, like the nice buildings, like I saw the not so nice building, but it's whatever. I love the campus. But and I played on the field before. I played on it for an AAU tournament. So like, it felt good playing on this facility. We again still took the tour like any college coach would. And the thing was just like, hey, like, this is our philosophy. This is what we believe in. We're feeding the meter. We're, eating to compete, to gain weight, to get stronger, bigger, faster. And, at the end of the day, like, we're playing on a top facility in New England at the Division III level. Like, there's some schools that, Division I levels are like, yeah, our facility is nowhere near nice as yours. Like, I play on a $6 million facility that's an exact replica of Fenway. Like, the only difference is our monster's 32 feet and the other one's 39. Like, it's all turfed out. So we're out, like, some schools were hitting inside this past week. We just scrimmaged against Curry because, yeah, it might have been cold, but we're out on the turf and our field can handle it. It was that. And then just talking, like, again, their philosophy. It's just, hey, the best players play. I don't have favorites. One man goes down, another one steps up. That kind of philosophy. And that's what I've always had since high school. Just knowing that, because Johnny is a senior, he's going to play over me as a freshman. But meanwhile, as a freshman, I was better than Johnny, for example. It's just the best guys play, and I think that's really cool. For example, is my former roommate Gianni Zerilli, played for Norwich. He started shortstop as a freshman. He started over a senior and a junior. Best guys play. I was a sophomore. I was in the starting rotation with Dylan Ryan and Amalfi, who are also sophomores. But there were 2 seniors who could have been potential starters ahead of us, and we just beat them out. Yeah, that's the main reason I came to UMB. The facilities were beautiful, the philosophy, and knowing Coach Agarbrot was, National Coach of the Year, and he could add a lot more to my repertoire as a player. And also that means he's going to bring in good coaches around him to fill out his staff.
It's super important to get that promise from coaches that, hey, it's like, if you play better than these guys, you're going to hit the field. If you prove yourself to be better, we are going to play you. It's not about, as you said, it's not about seniority. It's about skill. It's about who is the best player stepping on the field. And I think that's super important. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, it was nice knowing that when I went on my tour and everything. And it's like, looking back at high school, like both my older brothers played high school baseball too. And with this coach who was just like, juniors and seniors play, there's never going to be a sophomore on my team. And then as he ended up leaving, we got a new coach, and there I was, a sophomore on the team, a new coach. Just I was better than some of the seniors, and I got playing time. Like, it's just nice to know that philosophy stuck through, and at the next level, like, and that's how it is at the next level as baseball. As you go up the ladder, it's just the best players play, whether you're a freshman or a seventh year senior because of COVID. Like the best guys play. It's their job to win, and they want to put the best players out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And speaking of the best players hitting the field, you guys open up next week against New England College and then face MIT and Framingham State. Have you gotten any inclination yet on whether you'll be starting, coming out of the pen, pitching at all?
Yeah, I know. I know I'll probably be starting. Like I said, I started the Curry scrimmage this past Monday, so I'm kind of lined up to start that day. But like I said, we got some pretty good arms. I'm really excited for the season. Like I know I'll probably get a start one of those 3 games, maybe 2 of those 3 games, depending on time and weather. Went from 60 degrees here in Boston to snowing today, so that was fantastic. um, but yeah, hoping to get a start. Maybe 2 before Florida. We head down to Florida for spring break. We play like 8 games. We play a pretty tough schedule down there. But yeah, knowing to tune some stuff up against some good teams, see some good competition before we head down to Florida, or before the season like really gets going. That'd be really nice.
Yeah, it's going to be good to get those couple of games in definitely before you head south for spring break, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And going back even further, you went to New Milford High School. You were a captain of the baseball team and were named Southwest Conference Pitcher of the Year and first team All Southwest Conference. How would you describe your experience in high school?
My high school experience was good. Like I said, like just recently I was, freshman year I played freshman ball for most of the year. Got called up to JV. I think what really set the tone was my freshman year. I actually threw a perfect game. It was awesome. It was the greatest feeling in the world. And I think that's what really put me on the map. Because then coach was like, okay, like this kid can compete. Like let's see how he does at the varsity level. And it was like any other you know, young arm. It's just be like, okay, we're gonna give you a few bullpen innings first, and then maybe a start. And it was just like they saw that I could handle it, and I just kept going. Like you said, I won pitcher of the year. I was first team all FCBL. All SWC. Um, and I think like those were the years where, that year that happened, my sophomore year, really set the stage for my junior and senior year to be like, okay, like this is my expectation. I have to hit this. This is what's, if I keep going at this expectation, someone's going to notice me to play college baseball. Like my mind was so set. Like I want to play college baseball. I want to play college baseball, and, like I said, I feel like it molded me into who I am today. Academically, athletically, in the weight room, it's just like, I'm still competing like I did back in high school. And I think that's it. Like I said, another edge. And I want that. When my parents drive 3 hours up from New Milford to see me play in Boston, like I still want to impress them because they're the ones who gave me this opportunity to play at the next level. So it's nice. I feel like high school was really good starting point for me, and then when I hit college, that's even more when my foot hits the gas and I just go even more. Um, Obviously COVID played something in that, but yeah, it was high school. High school was a fun experience. To be honest, I don't think I would go back to high school. I think I love being around college teammates even more because I know these guys love for the game of baseball is even higher than it was in high school.
Yeah, certainly. And you talked about it. You're always competing on the field and off the field. So speaking of off the field, you were quite the genius in high school. Winning a couple
Yeah.
awards: National Honor Society, French Honor Society, Math Honor Society, high honors all 4 years. How much do you value education?
I think it's the bread and butter of what makes you you. Um, you know, yeah, I was up for the Einstein Award too for my team. I actually lost it to my roommate who's actually playing probably Fortnite or something in the next room. Um, but yeah, I value education very close to my heart. I think, set forth by my parents. Both went to Miami, Ohio. Both were actually in the marching band, so like they forced music down my throat, and I'm actually the only non-musically person talented in my family, so that's great. I got baseball though, but education super huge. Um, our coach, he always talks about being an academic weapon. Because that's where employers are going to look. Not everyone goes and plays professional baseball. As much as we want to dream it, no one does. And even to this day, we have every Saturday with Coachy, we have the People Project. That's what we call it. And every time he teaches us like a new skill, like how to tie a tie, handshakes, resumes, mock interviews. Like, here's a D3 coach. His job is just to win baseball games, but he's teaching us for life after baseball. So I think education is this stepping stone, and for any young viewers or guys who are listening or watching, it's just take that seriously because when you're going to get a lot more money academically than you are athletically, especially if you play the Division 3 level where there's no athletic scholarships. Academics are huge. And I wasn't amazing on my SAT at all, but I still got a pretty high merit scholarship because of how hard I put work in high school. And from a lot of guys, I know a lot of people panicked. A lot of my friends in high school panicked because junior year their GPA wasn't where they wanted to be, so they tried to play catch up. And you got to realize that starts from freshman year. From day one of freshman year, like it just doesn't stop.
Yeah, and that's great. You mentioned it that your coach takes the time to teach you guys. Obviously, it's not, they're not teaching rocket science or anything, but it's great that like the ways of life, how to tie a tie, handshakes, resumes. It's great that they take the time to do that, knowing how, busy you guys are with sports and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so one more question about that, kind of going back to college and your mindset currently. How much do you struggle, or how much of a challenge is it to balance sports and academics? And for those younger guys who may not have been doing it for as long of a time, what is your recommendation to them to try and, keep that balance between sports and academics and not falling behind?
Yeah, that's a great question. For I think the first thing people have to realize that if any high schoolers or even early freshmen is that every program's different. So my coach here at UMB doesn't believe in like the 6 a.m. lifts. Okay, so like the old adage of you wake up at 5:45 in the morning to go lift, then go to class and go to practice, then like like that's not a normal thing at every major university. Like like one team lifts at 6 o'clock in the morning probably, and it's just how it is based off of schedules. Um, but it is a grind some days. I'm taking a few master's levels classes right now. So those are only once a week from 4 to 7 p.m. on Wednesdays and Thursdays. I know those days are my really long days because I'm in a research team too. Um, I go research study from 8 a.m. to noon. Then those days I go to practice from usually 12:30 to 3:30. Leave practice early and go to class. Meal prepping is huge. I think that's the biggest advice because you got to eat to compete, as my coach loves to say. Um, but yeah, meal prepping is huge. Staying on pace, like having some people write down on their phone like assignments are due, or they create a color code spreadsheet. Like I just write my assignments down in a calendar and I highlight the big stuff. Um, but also I firmly believe finding a space that you can get work done. So I go to I have a room by myself so I can work at my desk. But before, when I had a direct roommate, I went to our integrated science building because it's the nicest building on campus. I love it there. Most of my classes are there. But I found a space where it's just where I can get work done. So like some people go to the athletic facility and go to the study hall area, you know. Some people go to, the conference room where we do film. Um, but it's just finding that space that's yours, where you can get work done, where, I also firmly believe, like, put the phone away. I think this is such a technology driven age, and it's getting worse with younger generations, but I don't have my phone within 5 feet of me when I need to get work done, because I know it just distract me. Um, I worked hard for my GPA in high school. I worked hard for my GPA now in college, and that's what got me into an accelerated master's program. But I know to finish my master's out, I'll have to, work 10 times harder than I did my bachelor's. So but, obviously there's going to be days where, double header days on a weekend where you're on the field from 10 a.m. until 7 p.m. Like, you can't control that. Like, that's what you signed up for. So just embrace it. Don't complain about it, and just go attack, like, plan ahead. Or, get back at midnight from a bus trip and you got an 8 a.m. test, study on the bus. That's what I've done it plenty of times. Doing anatomy on the bus wasn't fun, but I had to do it. But yeah, I think that's something that's the biggest advice, is just get ahead, talk to your teachers, talk to your professors, because 95% of the time they're willing to work with you. They're like, okay, I can extend the due date by, an hour, just so you can have an extra 25 minutes on the, like, for a paper. Like, professors are super helpful.
Yeah, that is some great advice there from the academic weapon himself, Tim Cianciolo. But yeah, that's seriously though, it is great advice. And you said it. It's about having routine, number one, but also just like the mindset of concentration, like you said, staying off the phone, finding a place for you to study. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, finding a routine is probably the hardest part. I know, I thought high school academics were a breeze. I took, some AP classes too. Like, yeah, those challenged, but, I didn't be like, oh, I could blow off homework this day to go do this. College is a little different. So like when you find, like, you define your routine, how you like things, you know, mom and dad aren't there to give you hugs and brownies every time, in college. Like, I remember I remember my first test, there like I said, I was a straight A student. I got a C plus on my first anatomy test. I called my mom. I was just like, the teacher didn't even want to talk to me after class. Like, she didn't care. I was just a number to her. I was a student ID number, in a class of 300 people. So like, at that moment, she's like, hey, you just got to toughen up, and like, you got to hit the books a little harder. And that's what really opened up my eyes to be like, okay, like, I got to work for everything I have. Like, if they gave me the opportunity, it's it's me, whether I'm going to blow it or make the best of it.
Yeah, that's great advice from the parents. Nothing like your parents giving you some good advice there. All right, and then one final question for you. Your favorite all-time baseball memory?
Favorite all-time memory. Oh my God, that's a toss-up between a few. My perfect game was pretty cool. I remember I struck out 14, and then there were like four comebackers back out to me. So I had like 18 of the 21 outs. I wasn't even supposed to throw that day. My buddy got detention, so I actually had to throw. But I wouldn't say that's my number. I mean, I played on a pretty amazing Little League team, and to really look back at the past, we won 4 regional titles, like 4 state titles. We went to the World Series twice, and I actually got to play on national television against North Carolina. Um, I played Cal Ripken, so it wasn't like Little League. Didn't have like that big name, but yeah, I was catching back in the day before the knees began to hurt a little bit. But yeah, playing on national television was probably the coolest moment, and like meeting like kids from different countries, because like there were kids from Japan, South Asia, Mexico, Canada. Yeah, I put all those memories in a box, and that stays in my closet. And I'll have those memories for the rest of my life. That's just something I will never forget.
Yeah, that's so cool. And again, like you said, at moments like that, you're never gonna forget that.
Yeah.
So cool. All right, Tim, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a fantastic interview. We look forward to your success at UMB, and good luck next week when you guys open up against New England College.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Of course. And this has been season 6, episode 2 of Back to the Futures, the official podcast of the Futures League. We have new episodes coming out every Thursday. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see everyone soon.